I gotta be honest for just a brief moment. Do you know how challenging it is navigating through life, being as consistently wrong about things as I've tended to be? Like, I know that you know. I know that you've been there a bunch and you've been wrong about things a million times over. But you specifically sitting at home, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just impervious to being incorrect about things and you're like, God, what does that feel like? I'm here to tell you what that feels like. But again, though, I know you know what this. I just really like having two cameras. All right. I've been noticing a trend over the last few years with myself, which is anytime that we get into the sort of as the NBA season winds down and we veer closer to draft season, there are always a handful of guys that I'm always definitively out on. Now there are times when I'm correct, only correct. Uh, Namely, the one that I would want to point out is Nico Mannion. I said that Nico Mannion was going to be like, well, no, because he had some physical health issues, so I don't want to disparage him. So never mind. Love you, Nico Mannion, and I hope you get better. But it remains to be seen when I'm actually going to be right about somebody being awesome. Well, that's also not true. Anyways, the most recent thing about me being wrong was Josh Giddey. A tweet that I had was like, I see none of it when I watch him. Like I don't I believe he's going to be a fundamentally bad player. I was wrong. Now, the school that I have identified as the one that Nick is the most wrong on. It's like Horizon Forbidden West, but it's like Forbidden East. Well, they're kind of central. It's Kentucky. Blue blood school. The Kentucky Wildcats. Now I got to say when you pump out as many players as you do, you're going to have an opinion on a lot of them. So it's like Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, all these schools. And I want to throw this out there. I'm also not biased as a college basketball fan. Like I'm a Michigan State fan, and just because a guy from Michigan State goes into the draft doesn't mean that I think he's going to be good. I did not believe for a second that Deontay Davis I thought he left way too early. And then, do you remember what happened to Deontay Davis? He leaves Michigan State after his freshman year and they have him in the green room for the lottery, and he slides to like the 31st or 32nd pick. And he left the green room because he didn't get picked in the first round. Not just didn't get picked in the lottery, he didn't get picked in the first round, and that was tough. If we had to date this back, when was the first time that I was objectively wrong about a Kentucky player? I would say it was 2010. You had Eric Bledsoe and you had John Wall. And I remember thinking that Eric Bledsoe I didn't think he was going to be better, but I thought that they were going to be like in the same paradigm. Like I knew John Wall was the truth, and a lot of that had to do with the song that we were talking about, which is remember John Wall, that came out like 10 years ago. That was a hit, and it made me believe in John Wall. Like 7th grade me going to school bumping John Wall on the bus was fire. You know who did not have a song though? Was Eric Bledsoe. But I digress. Anyways, I thought Eric Bledsoe was going to be really good, and he wasn't. If we move down just a little bit, I do want to say this. Willie Cauley-Stein was another player who I thought was going to be really, really good, but I actually left the Willie Cauley-Stein train a little bit early, and that was when, I think it was 2015 or 16. I don't remember if he had been drafted yet. I think it was pre-draft. He like legally changed his middle name to Trill. That was a real thing that happened. I don't know if that's still a thing, which is like a very just like 2016 thing to have done. I'm pretty sure was on the same team as Julius Randle, and this was the year that there was, for those who remember, it's not really a thing anymore, the Champions Classic. It was always Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State. Every single year, it was always like the second game of the year, and these 4 teams would play, and they would just it change every single year who plays who. So at the end of 3 years, you will have played everybody, and then the cycle just continues. There was one year where where Kentucky and Michigan State played. It was number 1 versus number 2, and it was like this big thing because like it felt like Michigan State just never actually wins those big games against those big schools. The Dukes, the Kentuckys, the North Carolinas of the world. We get Kansas every now and then, but we don't get Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina. At the time, we didn't. Since then, we've beaten, Julius Randle and Willie Cauley-Stein got played off the floor in that game, and Michigan State won, and we ended up being number 1. I'm pretty sure we ended up losing to North Carolina in the Big Ten ACC Championship challenge at home in East Lansing. Doesn't matter. On those same teams, but a few years later, I'm pretty sure. You want to know who I thought was going to be really good? Both of them. The Harrison twins. Remember the Harrison twins? Andrew Harrison, Aaron Harrison, the way that they took over in the tournament. They were like 40-0 with that team. They were like 100-0 with that team. There was the one sequence, like, was it the Michigan game? I don't remember which twin it was. Like, well, it was like 2 games in a row that they each hit, like, they like buried. I don't know. One of them was against Michigan. I don't remember who the other one was against. But like, these dudes were fucking good. Then you look at guys like Bam Adebayo, and I remember not really having anything to say about him. I was just like, whatever. In saying that, I was wrong because he ended up being one of the best and most mobile bigs that we have in basketball today. Jamal Murray was a little bit weird with me because wasn't there something weird that happened with... I don't think he even played at Kentucky. I don't remember what it was, but I don't think we even saw that much of him, if any at all. So I remember just being like, it's difficult for me if, like, the most recent tape that we have on you is from, like, AAU. Like, that's one of the reasons that Michael Porter Jr. slid in the draft, right? Was because he goes to Missouri and he has the back injury. We only got to see him for, like, 2 games. And coming into that year, it was like, he's the consensus #1 pick. Like, anyone's going to pick Michael Porter Jr. And then because he got hurt, and he did come back at the end of the year. I don't remember if it was tournament games or, like, Big 12 tournament games, whatever it was that he ended up playing. Hell, it could have been the damn... No, not the NCAA. What's the other one? When you don't make the tournament, you make when you make the NIT. I don't remember if it was the NIT, whatever it was. I don't remember. But then he slid and it ended up. Also, his medicals were just absolutely atrocious. Hamidou Diallo, a Detroit Piston, I had no thoughts or feelings on, and well, Trey Lyles, who not a Detroit Piston anymore, didn't really have that much to say about him either. If I could tell you one that it was not fair. It was not fair that I irrationally disliked this player. If we rewind to, I think, 2017, when, like, Ball Mania, as I am now coining it, had, like, swept the nation. At this point, Lonzo's at UCLA. LeVar is, like, in the fold. We're starting to figure out that LaMelo's this dude, and he's scoring 92 points at Chino Hills, and it was early in the season that I'm pretty sure UCLA and Kentucky played. Obviously, they did play in the tournament too. But off the rip, like, I was a Lonzo guy. I was in his hive, right? So basically, anybody that challenged Lonzo Ball, I disliked. So imagine my disdain for De'Aaron Fox come tournament time when he, let's just call it what it was, when he punked the shit out of Lonzo. And it was, but can I say something? Here's what I really respect about Lonzo to this day. Unless I'm misremembering this, which I feel like there could be a lot in this video. I love when a guy goes to the locker room after losing a game like that, whether it's losing a bowl game in football, you lose in the playoff, you lose in the natty, no matter what it is, you lose in the tournament. I love when a player's just like, I'm going to the league. When a guy is just like, you know, when they don't take the whole like, oh, you know what, I'm just enjoying this with my teammates, you know, I want to, you know, just take it in and take some time to think about it. I love when they just get to the locker room and they're like, no, like, you know what it was. You know why I was here. Of course I'm going to the league. So I wasn't a big De'Aaron Fox guy because of that. But since then, De'Aaron Fox has actually become like one of my favorite players in the league. This year's been a little bit tough for him, and I think that when you are a point guard whose 3-ball is on some weird decline over the last few years, when it's just becoming more and more prominent. At this point, I don't know if we can say it's becoming more and more prominent. I think it's kind of reached the apex in terms of its importance. But it remains that if you are a point guard in this league who cannot hit threes, the likelihood of you finding success drastically decreases. But that's the value of having somebody like Domantas Sabonis on your team. I say all of this just to be like, and I remember making a video about this last year where I was like, I feel like guys like me, I shouldn't be doing draft stuff. I should just let the draft play. Like, I can have thoughts and feelings on certain players, but I should not try to push them on anybody because I don't know anything about anything. Additionally, I always hate when people do player comparisons. Like when people are like Jaden Ivey reminds me of Ja Morant. Why? Because their hair is similar. That's it. That's literally the only, like, they don't play the same at all. People just like take like literal aesthetic reasons. Like, oh, Tyler Hero is the last one that I have to mention. Have to mention Tyler Hero because he was the one that I actually liked. I actually liked Tyler Hero, and I remember I said something about how I was like, I wouldn't be mad if Detroit ended up drafting him. We ended up taking Sekou Doumbouya instead, and it turns out that Tyler Hero is not just a shooter, and he's actually just a... he can score the basketball in a lot of ways. That is how I will frame that. and I enjoy him now. I think that I've been on record saying if Sixth Man of the Year exists, it exists to give it to a guy like Tyler Hero this season. And those are the players that I've been wrong about, a few of them in the last 10 years of Kentucky basketball. It's the one school that fucking plagues me. Who are you the most wrong about? Probably also Kentucky, or like Duke, or North Carolina.